All right, so I just finished watching Fatman with Mel Gibson, and this came out last year, and I intended to watch it last year, but never got around to it. Damn sure that I got around to it this year because it seemed like a fun film, and I definitely wanted to see what all the fuss was about because I did hear good things about this film, even though I stayed away from spoilers. For the most part, I didn't want to get it. I didn't know too much about the plot, and I wanted to keep it that way. I just knew it was a different take and a bit more of an adult kind of themed Christmas film, and I was good with that. With Mel Gibson as this rough, scruffy, you know, Kris Kringle character, you could say. But yeah, I just watched it tonight. Man, it's different than what I expected it to be. It's violent, for sure. So it had that, and I was expecting that going in, and it delivered that. The story is bizarre, and best to go in not knowing much about what goes on. So I'm gonna be light on the spoilers with this review, but I'll go over some stuff. Like my recommendation, as my recommendation always is go watch the film, then come to the review. But if you if you just want a basic plot and a recommendation, I do recommend seeing it. And your basic plot is an entire, Santa Claus story, basically, where Mel Gibson plays this guy named Chris, and he has his wife. Her name is Ruth. He calls her Ruthie, and she obviously is the Mrs. Claus figure. And they have this whole operation taking place in Alaska, and he, has his elves working for him and stuff like that. So the whole Santa lore is real in this film, and it's in that universe. But it's much more human. It's much more down to earth. It's not as fantastic as it is. Like Santa's much more of a rugged, normal person who makes toys and has his own set of issues and all that stuff. And then you get this kid named Billy who's completely spoiled rotten, but he plays out as a mob boss, like a 12-year-old mob boss who lives in this huge house, who has a personal bodyguard slash assassin, and when he ends up getting coal for Christmas, he gives his assassin this mission to go kill Santa. So the whole film is this guy. His name is Jonathan Miller, and he has his own childhood and his own problems and issues with Santa when he was a kid. He's hired for kill to go, assassinate Santa Claus. So that's your basic gist of the story. Anything else will probably be a spoiler. So if you're up for it, if you've already seen the film, stay tuned. If not, go watch the film. That's my recommendation. If you don't care, then stay tuned as well. So, this kid Billy, like I said, the characters are weird. Just the way they introduce them, the way it's hard. It's hard to really say what I mean. The character development is just really different in this film. Like I said, this kid is he's in this house by himself. His dad is just said to be traveling somewhere. I don't even think they mention his name, and if they do, it's very brief. But he's traveling wherever. This kid is at this house with his grandmother. His grandmother's older, sick, and he acts like he's in his 30s or 40s. Like just as if he owns the place. Like he talks to the maids. He bosses them around. He bosses his this assassin guy around. Basically anything he says and anything he wants, he gets. And he has this school project. This kid's really smart too, obviously. Um, for the most part, because he does cheat his way around a lot of things too. But he has this school project that he's doing, and he's gotten like 4 or 5 first place blue ribbons in the past. And then when he's presenting this project in this science fair or something like that, he ends up getting second place and he ends up being runner up to this girl named Christine, and he's totally confused. And legit, his project was way better than Christine's, so Christine kind of won by fluke or popularity or whatever. And this kid, sorry, I keep saying this guy because that's how he acts, but this kid, um, his project was this whole like ecosystem, like channeling the water and environmental kind of environmental kind of project that was very very advanced to his age or whatnot. Regardless, there's a huge twist that he has his bodyguard kidnap this little girl, bring her to the basement of his house, and he plays off like a mafia torture scene, like he's gonna electrocute this girl if she doesn't go back to the school and tell whoever was in charge of this science fair that she cheated and that she won unfairly, so that Billy, this kid can have first place for the science fair. So clearly, this kid has a lot of power, and it's never explained where he gets the power. And then you have Chris, who plays this Santa Claus. He's basically Santa Claus, but his name is Chris. His wife Ruthie is this very posh British black woman, and Chris is this very scruffy old white dude. And they're Mr. and Mrs. Claus. Clearly, that's what they're portrayed as. And then the elves are not like super small like, but they're very productive. They have their elfness. They have their diet. They eat all their sugars and sleep 20 minutes every 8 hours. One mentions. So I like how they played out the elf lore in that sense, and I found that pretty funny. I like the scene where Mel Gibson or Chris is in the bar and he randomly starts talking to this guy named Mike, and he knows everything about Mike, which later you kind of put two and two together and realize, oh, he's Santa Claus, so that's why. But he's just telling Mike to basically, Mike's intention is to hook up with the bartender, and he just tells Mike to go back home to his family, and he's like, if you leave right away, you can make it in 12 hours, and he knows what Mike's intentions are, so he buys the beer that Mike was drinking, and he just tells him to fuck off, basically. And then you got the scene where Jonathan, the assassin, takes Christine home after that whole electrocution threat in the basement, and he's like, "So Christine, don't make sure you don't tell anybody, or I'll kill your mommy and I'll kill your daddy. You got a dog?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What's your dog's name?" And she's like, Juju Beans or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll kill Juju Beans too." And he's so like casual and nonchalant about it, which really adds great black comedy to this film. And this film is scattered with those like black comedic moments that come out of nowhere, kind of, but really complement the themes of the film too. And it's like a siege movie at the end, like in the third act, mixed with black comedy, um, kind of mixed with action, you could say, with just really bizarre characters and unique ones. Like, I've never really seen a film like this that kind of humorously and sarcastically plays around with caricature tropes, and like the kid, especially Billy, how he's acting like a mob boss, but he's like 12. Like he doesn't even he has a high pitched voice. Doesn't even have a deep voice. When he is opening his present and he finds Cole and he runs outside and he's like, "You made the biggest mistake of your life, fat man." And then he calls the assassin Jonathan, and he's like, "I want you to kill Santa Claus." Um, so Santa's whole workshop and everything is in Alaska. I don't necessarily know how I feel about Santa Claus having to bring in the military for like a 2 month contract for the elves. There's that scene in the middle of the film where the military kind of infiltrates the whole operation of the elves, and even has the elves like cut the bells off their shoes because it'll interact with the metal detectors, switch or completely shuts off toy production and instead is starting to make like control panels for jet planes or something. And I just I don't know how I feel about it because it's such a random thing to put as a plot in the middle of the film, but like I don't know, it seemed like a it seemed like a really random and unnecessary plot point to have, but that was just my opinion. This whole film is about random and bizarre plots going on, so you can't really say that that one came out of nowhere. It kind of fits along with the theme of the rest of the film completely. And I really liked the shootout at the end. The shootout between Santa Claus and this assassin, Jonathan Miller, it felt like a video game. The way it was shot, the way the way the camera moved behind the assassin as he was shooting everybody down, all the barricades that were laid out with the wood and the snow atmosphere, and it felt very video game esque, and I loved that. I thought that was a great finishing for an action film, and the whole siege that took place in the elves' workshop, and it was great. Like the ending of the film really worked perfectly and elevated the film to a much higher place that it kind of started off, and I wouldn't say dragged, but it was definitely paced a lot slower, and it took its time to, like, there was a lot of parts in the first act and the second act where I was asking, like, where is this going to go? Like, I'm very curious as to where this film is going to go and where it's going to take itself and what it wants to do and say, because it wasn't very apparent at the beginning of the film. But at the end, and then after that whole situation where, I mean, Santa Claus should have died, but I guess that's the whole point of the story. Santa doesn't die because he was shot right through the eye, and when he was breathing and like clasping at the snow, I'm like, is he alive? Seriously? Because I thought this movie was gonna have some balls by killing Santa Claus and just assassinating him and leaving it at that, but no. I really liked how he came to Billy's house with Mrs. Claus or Ruthie and gave the kid that whole speech saying that if he ever messes up again that he's getting way more than just coal. I love that. And then you have this kind of western music going on, so it makes the whole scene feel like a western interrogation. Really, really well done on that one. So obviously my favorite part of the film was the third act, but the film as a whole was very unique, kind of rewatchable in a sense. It does have some rewatch value. Awesome, awesome performance by Mel Gibson and the guy who plays the assassin too. I know his face. I've seen him in other films. I did not write his name down, but I definitely know that he's a talented actor. So and he's very recognizable in other things that I've seen him in for sure. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. I really had a good time with this film, and I would definitely look forward to watching it again. And I can see it grow in popularity for sure. I could definitely see it become a cult film, and I can see it. Like I can see myself rewatching this on a yearly basis for sure. But as time goes on, I think it's definitely going to gain popularity more than anything, and especially go into cult status for the most part. But yeah, I enjoyed it and I recommend it, so it gets 2 thumbs up from me. That's Fatman. Came out in 2020, and that's what I got on it. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon. There's lots on the channel, so check those out. Till next time, have a good one, and cheers.